for Dunkley.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. The motion moved by the member for Deakin has at Part 1B, I assume ironically, really, the Coalition's commitment to listening to affected communities. So we're here today talking about the cashless debit card, which not exclusively but overwhelmingly was placed upon Indigenous communities. There were some examples of Indigenous communities that wanted it, but overwhelmingly was implemented to and on Indigenous communities. And we have a former minister of the former Liberal government, coalition government, one who has been quite verbal about his opposition to the Voice, putting in a motion the Coalition's commitment to listening to affected communities. And it is rank hypocrisy coming from two parties that are opposing the Voice to Parliament to suggest that they listen to Indigenous communities. In May of 2017, the Uluru Statement from the Heart was signed by over 250 people from some 1,200 Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander delegates to Uluru, who were chosen by an exhaustive process across the country, democratic process of selecting Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders to meet at Uluru to say, where to from here? Where to for reconciliation? Where to for closing the gap? And how can we be listened to? How can we be a part of reconciliation and closing the gap? And I know that the members who are in the Federation Chamber as I speak all know what's in the Uluru Statement from the Heart. It's not clear to me that were there any members of the Coalition in this chamber, they would know what was in it. But the Uluru Statement from the Heart includes this line: we call for the establishment of a First Nations voice enshrined in the Constitution. And the final paragraph, that final stirring paragraph, in 1967 we were counted. In 2017 we seek to be heard. We leave base camp and start our trek across this vast country. We invite you to walk with us in a movement of the Australian people for a better future. Every single member of the Coalition that stood up and professed to support the cashless debit card because they want a better future for Indigenous communities, and passionately, and I think in many respects truthfully, stood in this chamber and said they want to be able to address the issues that are affecting the communities that they represent, have all said no to a voice enshrined in the Constitution, which is what Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities asked for. It's what they asked for. So they come into this chamber and they try to get the House to note the Coalition's commitment to listening to affected communities while taking every opportunity to run every bit of misinformation and disinformation, overtly and impliedly racist argument, tropes that don't belong in public debate in this country and haven't for decades, and simultaneously want to cry their hearts out because of the disadvantage that exists in Indigenous communities. We had the Productivity Commission, not necessarily renowned as a woke organisation for its progressive policies, just last week hand down a review of the National Agreement on Closing the Gap report. And the executive summary says this: it is too easy to find examples of government decisions that do not reflect Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people's priorities and perspectives, and that exacerbate rather than remedy disadvantage and discrimination. It is too easy. And the Productivity Commission notes that legislated Indigenous voices to Parliament in South Australia, treaty and truth-telling processes in Victoria and Queensland, and the upcoming referendum to change the Constitution to recognise the First Peoples of Australia by establishing an Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander voices are initiatives which may result in new decision-making and accountability structures that could provide a further catalyst for changes to the way governments work with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people.
Time has expired.
Coalition should listen.